These days, we could all use an escape. So for fun, I'm throwing caution and budget to the wind and building 3 high-end hi-fi systems. And before you leave a comment that you don't have to spend this much, I already made a budget-conscious video for you a couple of weeks ago. For everyone else ready to have a little fun, I'm going for traditional 2-channel builds with a goal of creating an endgame system. One that shouldn't need upgrades later on other than, I don't know, maybe adding a new source component as new formats come along. But I also want timeless designs that will hopefully appeal to generations to come. Now I'm going to start by keeping things simple. Just because we're building a cost-no-object hi-fi system doesn't mean that we need to stare at a rack of gear and a half mile of cables. So to kick things off, I'm building a minimalist dream system, starting with a recent find of mine, an all-inclusive integrated amp that continues to just blow my mind, Devialet Astra. Now, we reviewed the Astra back in June, and ever since then, when it comes to powering passive speakers, it has been my go-to reference. I love its easygoing, full-bodied, but dynamic and agile sound, and its ability to extract the very best low end from any speaker connected to it is very noteworthy. It's Class D done right, with no asterisks or, fine print accompanying its power rating or capability. Plus, it has an excellent configurable phono stage as well as a built-in DAC with enough spare inputs to accommodate multiple sources without becoming cluttered. But for those satisfied with just streaming, its built-in music streaming capabilities and app control rival the best in the business, making this a, quote, just add speakers type of system, and you could be done. Speaking of adding speakers, for this build, I could go with a pair of my favorite bookies, Focal Diablo Utopia Color Evo, but I know that some audiophiles watching still believe that a bookshelf speaker will never give you enough bass, so I'm going to leave no doubt and go for broke with their Utopia 3 Evo Tower speaker. The Utopia 3 has an 11-inch woofer and plays down to the mid-20 Hz region, so for most listeners and most genres of music, you can skip a sub, which keeps our system simple. And while there are higher-end speakers in Focal's Utopia line, the Utopia 3 has always been a favorite of mine. It has the iconic shape and looks, but the size is manageable at just over 4 feet tall, or 125 centimeters, making it a better fit for more rooms of all sizes without sacrificing too much in terms of performance. Now, as far as source components go, I'm sticking with the Astra's built-in streaming capability because it really is that good. With the Astra, I could even expand this system by adding, say, a pair of Devialet Phantom-powered speakers for a whole home audio experience. I also, though, want to add a turntable, specifically one from Linn. Now, I get it, cost is not a concern today. Remember, we're just having fun. I'm going to go with the less expensive Selekt LP12 over the flagship Klimax. Now, why would I do such a thing? Aesthetics and ease of use. The look, feel, and finish of the Selekt is perfect for this minimalist setup, and while I get that maybe 1 or 2% of you will be able to hear and appreciate what the Klimax brings to the table, I'm going to trust my gut, and I'm going to say that for the rest, the Selekt will be more than enough to blow your mind. So what's the bottom line for this minimalist hi-fi dream? All in, not including things like cables, furniture, and other unknowns like taxes and whatnot, we're looking at a total system cost of just under $81,000 US, and that includes a pair of Phantoms. I get it's a lot of money, but then again, never claim that perfection was cheap. Now, for those looking for something a little more traditional, but still chic, I've got you covered. You don't get to celebrate 76 years in business by doing things the wrong way, which is why, love them or hate them, my go-to pick for high-end traditional hi-fi components tends to be Macintosh. I get that their old school black and blue retro look, it's not going to be for everyone, but I'll be damned if they don't look right at home, no matter if your style is, say, ultra modern, contemporary, or classic traditional. Now, this may rile up some of you, but I'm starting with Macintosh's new solid-state C55 preamp. That's right, I'm foregoing tubes for this entire build, because while tubes are cool and, very traditional, they also wear out and can need replacing, and they're not always the easiest to live with or, in some cases, maintain should certain tubes become unavailable. Now, the latter isn't likely to happen with Macintosh equipment, but it is something that you really should be aware of, especially when spending a lot of money on tube-based equipment. But getting back to the C55, it's an exceptional stereo preamp. It has all the inputs, including HDMI, a terrific built-in DAC, a configurable phono preamp that's among the best I've ever tested, not to mention it has all of the control and future-proofing and flexibility every audiophile and music lover can appreciate. For power, I'm sticking with Macintosh and I'm going with their MC312 solid-state stereo amplifier. While I understand that for true cost no object systems, one could easily spend more and get more power by going with, the MC462 or a pair of their mono amps like the MC 1.25 kilowatt. But honestly, I don't think you need to. The MC312 and its quote pedestrian 300 watts and all impedances has proven itself to be more than enough to drive even the most demanding speakers. I know that not everyone is a fan of the Macintosh design, so I actually like that the MC312 is a little bit more restrained in its styling, foregoing the bulging rack handles for slim chrome accents, which are more in line with the C55's more tailored look. I have actually nothing negative to say about the MC312 and have long considered it to be a reference amplifier regardless of price, though, if I'm being honest, as far as cost no object stereo amps go, the 312 could be considered a bargain. For speakers, I'm torn. Wilson Audio's Watt Puppy and Bowers & Wilkins 800 signatures would make even the most critical audiophiles happy. Both pair very well with the Macintosh equipment, but I'm giving this slight, win to the Watt Puppy as I did prefer its sound overall, though both speakers obviously podium when the race is over, at least to me. The Wilson is less expensive than the B&W, if you can believe that, and has way more options when it comes to finish. The Watt Puppy is an absolute reference-grade investment speaker that has stood the test of time and can be passed down like a nice watch or a vintage automobile, which is kind of the point with these products. In my opinion, the Wilson doesn't require the additional investment of a sub, but hey, if you have the money burning a hole in your pocket, Wilson will be more than happy to make you a matching subwoofer. Since the MC312 has plenty of power, all that's left to do is add a source or two. Given that the C55 lacks a built-in streamer, we have some choices to make. Now, we could go higher end with something like, the Name NSS333, which is wonderful. But it also could be a bit overkill, given that the DAC and the capability of the C55 is already pretty stellar. Maybe I'm the odd one, but I see no need to spend money we don't necessarily have to in order to buy performance we may already have. So I'm going to break with the ultra high-end theme for just a moment and choose either a WIM streamer or Cambridge Audio's MXN10. I prefer Cambridge's user experience and overall design, but since I'm going to hide it from view anyway, you can go with either option. I just need the streamer for access to wireless capability and streaming music app support, and the MXN10 fits those needs. I can connect it to the C55's DAC using an optical or coaxial cable, and while I could spec the Linn turntable from earlier, I'm going to keep things in the Macintosh family and grab their MT5, bringing the total system price to $67,500, give or take. Now, if you want the B&W signatures instead of the Wilsons, well, the price jumps to $88,000 all in. But for those listeners who pine for a system with the old school vibe, I'm talking the golden age of HiFi. I haven't forgotten about you. For this throwback inspired setup, I'm building everything around a pair of Klipsch La Scalas. Since the new AL6 model was delayed getting to us, I'm going with what I know, and that's the older AL5. The La Scala is a special speaker. I don't know if it's their book match walnut finish or its old school boxy design. Either way, they are a statement in more ways than one. But they're not perfect. And unlike the other speakers in this video, they do need the help of a subwoofer or two because they only play down to around 40 hertz, which is fine for small jazz ensemble music, but for rock and roll or electronica, 40 hertz doesn't get it done. Now here's where it gets tricky. I want to go with the SVS SB17 subwoofer because, well, it's friggin' great and one of the best subwoofers on the market. But it's huge and doesn't really complement the La Scala's aesthetics, so it's out. Since Klipsch still hasn't gotten the memo, I left them years ago to make a heritage sub. I'm going to use Kef's KC92. It's way smaller and thus easier to place and maybe even hide without distracting from the more vintage-looking Klipsch. As for electronics, the La Scalas don't need much to reach their full potential, especially when adding a subwoofer to the mix. When we reviewed the AL5 several years ago, I was actually quite smitten with them running on my Fleewatt tube amp from Decware. And while I have zero hesitation in recommending the Decware Zen Amp to anyone, the 3-year-plus lead time gives me pause. So instead, I'm opting for another favorite and one that I know powers the La Scalas brilliantly. And no, it's not another Macintosh. Instead, I'm gonna go with the Technics R1000. This amplifier is absolutely sublime, so smooth, so clean, and so colorless that you will hear the La Scala's true timbre with no editorializing. It has one of the best phono preamps out there, plus preamp outs, allowing us to add a mini DSP device to the mix between the R1000 and our KEF sub to really, finesse the integration between this classic speaker and the more modern sub for what should be an effortless, full-range, large-scale, horn-loaded sound that, if set up correctly, will sound positively live. For source components, I'm sticking with what I know works, and I'm going with Technics SLG700 Mark II, a CD, SA/CD player, and streamer. We never officially reviewed this piece, but we lived with it alongside the R1000 long enough to know that this pairing is pure magic. Throw in Technics' iconic and trouble-free turntable, the SL1200G Grand Class, and you have a complete high-end solution that will be a feast for the auditory and visual senses, all in for a little over $34,000. So that's it. Those are 3 ultra high-end cost no object systems. What'd you guys think? What'd you guys think of my picks? I think these systems really are kind of end game system. I know I could be happy with any one of the 3 forever. So now it's time for you to sound off in the comments and build your ultimate cost no object system. Let's get it going. I want to see a bunch of options down there because you never know. Maybe you'll spark something in someone and put together the perfect system for them. Anyway, I can't thank you enough for watching. Remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.